everything in this business is way more difficult than I ever thought it was going to be.
Okay, welcome back to the Marketing Playbook presented by Shopware and Ometria. Here you'll take away 3 game-winning marketing plays every episode to take back to your team. I'm your host, Mark Friedman, and my career has been focused on direct-to-consumer marketing, direct mail, physical retail, and digital commerce. This is episode number 108, and my guest is Alex Faherty. Alex is the co-founder and CEO of Faherty, a retailer of men's and women's apparel. Working with his wife and his twin brother, Mike, they started the business in 2013. With more than 70 stores, an online business, and a wholesale business, Faherty is bringing the consumer the highest quality product, making things better, and always spreading good vibes. Alex is so interesting and engaging, you'll love the conversation. Before we get started, a quick thank you, as always, to Max Brandstetter of the Wild Business Growth Podcast for producing this episode. You can reach him at maxpodcasting.com to help bring your podcast to life. Let's open the playbook. Ready, break. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for joining the Marketing Playbook podcast. Today, I'm joined by Alex Faherty. Alex is the co-founder and CEO at Faherty. Prior to starting the business, Alex spent over a decade in investment banking and private equity. Formerly a football player at Yale, Alex takes a coaching mentality in how he runs the business, knowing that so much of a brand's success is who makes up the team. When he has time and isn't coaching T-ball, he likes to surf. Alex, welcome to the show.
Hey, Mark, thanks for having me.
I appreciate you doing this. I know you're always in a mode of movement from store to store and other aspects of running your company. For the folks that don't know Faherty, tell them what the business is and maybe a little backstory of you and your brother and your wife and how this business came to be.
I was fortunate to have I have an identical twin brother, Mike, and as an identical twin brother, you do everything together for most of your childhood life. And my brother, since I can remember, loved clothes. And he always was telling me what to wear. He'd pick my clothes out for me. We would spend way too much time going back to school shopping. It's just like something he had from an early age. And my dad really liked clothes too. So I think they bonded over, it's kind of like they had a bond over that. And so when we were in high school, our senior year of high school, we had to write college essays. And at that point, Mike was, he was pretty artistic. He was always in the painting classes and drawing classes and pottery classes in high school. The prompt was, what do you want to do with the rest of your life? And he actually sat down and he wrote his college essay on starting Faherty. And the genesis of that college essay, which is the easiest way to kind of talk about where we are today, is we grew up in a small beach town called Spring Lake, which is on the Jersey Shore, probably 65 miles south of New York City. And my dad commuted to work every day, so he worked on Wall Street. He was a well-dressed guy, but we were it's a surf town, so like we grew up as surfers, wearing Quicksilver and Rip Curl and Billabong, and in the '90s, those brands had a day. We loved that. Patagonia, big skiers too. And then we moved to New York City to the Upper East Side of Manhattan. All of a sudden, it's like culture shock. Holy cow. And so I think for my brother, he, started going to department stores at Bloomingdale's and shopping Ralph Lauren. And I think it was for him this quest to find the essay was on this brand that merged his beach surf outdoor lifestyle with the fabrics and the fashion of New York City. And how can he put those two things together into a brand? And it's our life. That's basically what we lived through. And so Mike went on, did a fashion design program at Washington University in St. Louis. And then his dream was always to work at Ralph Lauren. And he got a job at Ralph Lauren and spent nearly a decade there designing. And while he was doing that, I remember I was in college, and I even told my wife, who's a co-founder with us, when we first met freshman year in Spanish class, that I was going to start a clothing company with my brother. And if you would have seen me freshman year in college, you would have thought that was the craziest thing you've ever heard, because I was wearing like an incredible Hoke tank top and board shorts, and I was not the fashion brother, but I knew that Mike and I needed to do something together. And so I remember meeting someone, getting some advice in college. When I told some alumni that I wanted to start a clothing company, and they said, number one advice is make as much money as you can because these businesses eat money. And so I was like, what should I do? And they said, well, investment banking. This was 2007, is sort of a bull market. They said that's a great way to make money. So I started kind of studying finance, and I went that route. Spent a couple years in investment banking, and then I spent about 5 years in private equity while Mike was at Ralph Lauren. And we were 29. We had no kids. I think we were both, worked almost 10 years. And, you sort of have this thing that's always been in the back of your mind that we're going to start Faherty. And we'd always tell our friends about it. And we would, that we would put it out to the ethers that this brand needed to exist. And Mike one day called me and said, I've not designed a lot for Ralph. I feel like I'm ready to go. And that was in 2000, at the end of 2011, 2012. And we started working on it. And it's been an amazing ride. But I sort of go back and say, I'm so fortunate that I just get to do what I've always wanted to do with my brother and, my wife, and pretty lucky to kind of build this lifestyle brand that's around our life and our style and the things that we like.
That's awesome. Great story. And the fact that you get to do it with family members is probably even more special. You made a comment about, these businesses take a lot of money. How did you get started from the money perspective? Is this a self-funded business throwing off its own cash flow now? Have you taken private equity money? What's the status?
It's self-funded. Today we business is profitable, so we work with JP Morgan, and we have a credit line with them, and they've been a great financing partner for us. But for the first 2030, for the first 6 or 7 years, it's cobbling together, especially in the early days, friends and family. When we first launched, we did a little friends and family round, and we were fortunate that Mike had made a really good relationship when he was at Ralph with a factory owner, guy who took over his dad's factory in India in Chennai, where Ralph does a lot of their woven, Madras shirts. And him and Mike were about the same age, and they became close friends. And so when we started, he was a financial partner and also a business partner to kind of like get the manufacturing going. So for the first couple of years, we did a lot of work with him. So that he's been an amazing partner. His name's Ajay. And then yeah, friends and family piecing things together, angel investors. That's kind of the way we've funded the business. And then since 2019, we've been sort of self-funded through these credit facilities.
What's been one or two things that you can point to, Alex, that have been way more difficult than you might have expected they would be since you started the business?
Well, the first thing is everything in this business is way more difficult than I ever thought it was going to be. I came from a private equity job. I thought it was hard. We worked a ton of hours, but within a year, I was like, oh my God, my last job was so easy because you go from, say, a corporate job, you have a responsibility level that's just very finite, accountability that's very finite, to all of a sudden starting a business and your accountability and your responsibility is infinite. So there's everything and anything you could be doing. Mirror that with survival, financial survival. We put everything into this business. We live, living credit card to credit card. We're Airbnb our apartment just to, pay bills. And, you sort of handle that with the complexities of the supply chain and inventory planning, and how do you get known to people and how do you hire people? These are all things we were learning on the fly. So it's sort of like this trifecta of like everything and anything happens in those early days. So in the beginning, it's everything. I think as the complexity of the business and the size of the business sort of scaled it for us, I point to sort of two things, which is one of them was because I didn't come from the industry, which is, say, the analytical rigor around inventory planning. And I think if you grow up in a retailer, they've sort of been punched in the nose so many times that they get it, of how rigorous that has to be. But that's definitely something we have to catch up on. The second thing is, how the heck do you stand out when there's a business that has so little barriers to entry? The differentiation's not significant. It's not like we're revolutionizing technology. It's we're trying to make a better product than the next guy. It's kind of like you think about a restaurant business. Like, how does a restaurant differentiate themselves? Like, there's the branding, there's the food. That has been the biggest thing, is how do you differentiate yourself? How do you stand out? And, we took the approach from the early days of, we were a wholesale business first because, studying other brands that came before us. I mean, we launched in 2013. So that's right when it was just like the beginning of e-commerce becoming this big thing. So investors and the industry community was like, it's all about e-com. Wholesale started really getting a bad rap in 15 when the department stores had that really tough year at the end of 15. So wholesale was getting a bad rap. But we felt like that was the best way to get the brand out there. So we were wholesale first. That was about 70% of our business for the first few years. And then we actually launched with a catalog as our first direct to consumer marketing in holiday of 2015. Similar, like, everything was talking about Facebook, Google advertising. And we just felt like everyone had walked away from the catalog, and our brand was always very visual. And I think I got the economics of it. And I understood, like, you mail it to this many people. I just had a harder time getting my head around the digital marketing business at that time. And that's how we built our e-commerce business in the beginning, was off the catalog, which I know is near and dear to your heart, Mark.
It is.
One of the ways we first connected.
Yeah, and it's funny. We first connected just a few days before COVID closed everything down. You were very gracious to have me join you for lunch near your office downtown Manhattan, and then everything closed down. And up until then, I didn't know the Faherty brand. And one of the things that stood out for me very early and still to this day is the product. And I'm a marketer, right? But what I always say to folks that I work with, I can be a great marketer, but it's got to be about the product. When the product is good, the business is going to perform. When it's not good, I didn't get stupid all of a sudden as the marketer. Your product is great, not only from the color and the design, and obviously it's got to be personal preference, but the fabrications are good, the product lasts, and not to be a shill at all for your business, but the quality is really good.
That's something, we obviously launched with that as a credo of the brand. One of the brands my brother Mike designed at Ralph Lauren was a brand called Double RL, which is Ralph's luxury outdoor Western wear brand. Really expensive, but really well made. So, that brand is basically taking, like, turn of the century 1920s garments and recreating them anew. So you're talking about custom fabrics, a lot of detail with the factories as far as, like, washing and stitching, and kind of like an old fashioned approach to making clothes. So that's what Mike really grew up in at Ralph Lauren. So he's kind of taken that same approach because that's all he really knew. And so what we do is, and this is mainly what Mike and his team do, is he custom designs basically every fabric that we make. So that's a unique thing in the business, because there's complexities to that, there's costs to that. And he's a chef. He understands the blends and yarns and how they all come together. And I mean, he'll just talk to you about the warp and the twisting of the yarns, and this is how it looks like this. He learned that at Ralph, designing Double R, and we've been able to take that into Faherty, and sort of that hands-on approach to going to the factory, sitting with the sewer. This is how you need to sew it. This needs the triple stitch. He had a great training ground, and he's been able now to obviously bring that to our business. But it's, when you're a small brand, what we learned in the beginning is, like, there just stuff goes wrong, and you just can't do anything about it. So it's just weathering the storm of, you want to be quality, you want to make an amazing product, but it's so much easier said than done, because of the nuances of, like, making sure the fabric's made right, making sure it's sewn right. So we got a ton of, over the years, there's, like, numerous examples of when stuff went wrong and we had issues and quality issues. But I think it's, for us, it's that's always been something we've leaned into, is, like, when we have issues, like, we got to learn from it and we got to step it up with how we bring it. And so I think as we've scaled, Mike and his team have done a really good job of, like, the quality has gotten even better as we've gotten bigger, versus, I think there's a historical reference that doesn't always happen with brands. And that's Mike. That's what he lives and breathes and wakes up every day thinking about.
You mentioned that you started, predominantly wholesale and then moved into direct to consumer through catalog and through online. And now you have quite a number of stores. How many do you have now?
We have 71.
And I feel like I've passed all 71 in my exploits. As you know, I live in Westfield, New Jersey, and you guys opened a store not long ago, which is great. Allows me to keep up to date on what you guys are doing. I will say that the staff, people are important. The people in your store are really knowledgeable about the brand and are really pleasant and want to help the customer that walks in the store. I'm guessing that's something that's really important to you all.
I think it goes back to just from the early days is, when you put your name on it, which we ended up doing, is it becomes personal. And so the expectation actually of the consumer when you put a name on it is that this is a reflection of the owner's values. And you sort of learn that in the early days. Like that's the downside of it is like when there's a customer complaint or there's an issue, like it's like, oh, these Fahertys, they don't, so you start having a lot of like self-reflection on, man, like if I'm gonna keep doing this and stay sane, you realize that there's areas you have to invest in, and that's the customer facing side just needs to be even better when there's especially in the earliest when there's a name associated with it. I fell in love with retail when we opened our first little store because I realized that like I actually love the business of selling and hospitality with people. So that became a love of mine. So if you ask me what do I love the most about this business, I'll tell you I love the people aspect of our stores and how we show up in real life to customers every day. And that's what I've tried to, instill into our teams. And now we have retail leadership, and that there's nothing more important for our brand than how the customer experiences it in real life, because that's like the one opportunity we have to create a once in a lifetime shopping experience and to create brand loyalty is in these one-on-one consumer interactions. Whereas online, it's just noisy. It's just hard to do that.
Hey there, retailers and marketers. Want to stay ahead of the curve as we move into 2025? Ometria's new Retail Marketing in 2025 report is your key to unlocking the future of customer engagement. For over a decade, Ometria has been at the forefront of transforming retail with their customer data and experience platform, CDXP. With access to billions of retail data points and insights from top industry leaders, they see exactly where the future of retail is headed. The report is packed with insights on the trends and strategies you need to thrive in the coming year. Imagine knowing exactly how to personalize experiences, leverage AI, and meet customer expectations before they even know what they want. This report covers everything from the latest tech to the most effective retention strategies. Whether you're a seasoned marketer or just starting out, this report will give you the edge to keep your customers engaged and coming back for more. So don't miss out and read your copy of the Retail Marketing in 2025 report today. All these channels work together, online, the stores. When you open up a store in a particular market, what do you know about its impact, positively or negatively, on your digital business in that area?
Obviously, in a place like let's take your home store, Westfield, place like Westfield, New Jersey is it's just an amazing way to introduce new people to the brand because you just got people who walk around town, they're getting a coffee, they walk by the store, let me go check it out. They hear about it from a friend. Like you just sort of become a little bit more part of like the neighborhood gossip in a town like Westfield. And so it gets you in front of a customer base that you just know is a good customer. You understand the demos, you know who's living there. And so we see, all tides rise from an e-commerce perspective, especially in those isolated geographic areas. In the bigger cities, it's a little bit, it's not as obvious because the law of numbers is just so much bigger, and you have a lot of tourism. And the other thing we have is we have a store base that's almost half and half. What you call like a more of a suburban or true like neighborhood, and a lot of them are in travel destinations. So these are places where there aren't many people that live in these areas. The people who come are on vacation. they're coming for summer or for a ski trip. And what that ends up spreading itself across the country in a really interesting way. That's allowed us, I think, to build a national following in a short period of time because you have people who are traveling from all over the country to some of these locations, and it's been a great win for us to have Nantucket or Malibu or Steamboat Springs now, or even I even put Charleston, South Carolina in that boat now as an example, versus being in all the malls, which is you probably get a better e-commerce lift in those specific areas, but the national exposure is just a lot less.
Customer data is obviously really important, who your customers are. Talk a little bit, if you can, about your data strategy. Your omni-channel business, you've got customers that are shopping in store, perhaps they're shopping online. Are you bringing all the data together in one place and then leveraging that data for analytics and marketing capabilities?
We've done this over the last bunch of years in a few different ways. So when we were younger, we did it through a CDP. We've used a couple different CDPs over the years, where you basically pay a software provider an annual fee to sort of manage a database for you in a way. Limitations to that for a bunch of different reasons. You don't really own all pieces of it, and how much can it scale. And so about a year and a half ago, we brought it in house and kind of built our own data platform, which now allows us with our analytics team to basically access any information, any analysis that we need to access. And in this business, like, stuff just comes up, like, hey, what's going on with this store? Why is this store struggling? Like, all right, who are the biggest customers? Who are the best customers? Who hasn't shopped in the last 3 months? Like, how do we get in front of that customer? How do we make sure that we're paying attention to them? So it allows you to really, like, figure out. For us, I think what we've isolated so far is, one is really building the segments of our best customers and really understanding who they are and how we communicate with them. I think the second thing, it allows us just to play offense more with what are things we're feeling and seeing in the business, and how do we really go micro and solve that specific problem from a product perspective, from as I said, a repeat shopper perspective, because the world of acquiring a lot of new customers online, it's just getting harder. So all those little wins as far as knowing who you're talking to and personalizing how you talk to them and building that repeat customer base, it's just, I feel like, the holy grail of how you make this business work.
Marketing and brand awareness is key. And this, I need to ask you because this is of interest, to me. I've seen you do some stuff with Daniel Jones from the New York Giants, Jalen Brunson from the Knicks. Talk about how you're using those relationships, and are you doing things like that nationally? Those are New York athletes. Are you doing it around the country?
We haven't started doing it around the country, but we definitely will. I think, for one, I love sports, so I think that's important. That's just like a piece of everything we do. It's usually connected to what we like, and obviously, I'm a Knicks and a Knicks, Yankees, Giants fan, so that fits. But you also think about, like, Jalen Brunson as an example. Like, yeah, he's becoming a well-known name, but in the end of the day, like, it's really the 10 million people that live in the metropolitan area that really care about Jalen Brunson. So when you think about how do you stand out in specific locations and areas, we feel like that's a huge way to do that, is by tapping into the local sports market in order to do that. And then I think there's a way, sports introduces us to a new customer base that may not be shopping at the department stores that we sell at, or walk in the streets that we have stores in. And be like, oh, cool. I didn't know Faherty. I saw Jalen Brunson was wearing it, and it's positive brand association with someone that they really look up to. And so it's a version of influencers and ambassadors, but to us, it's connected to people we respect and teams that we love. And I just feel like, especially in men's, which is a big part of our business, it's kind of like, unfortunately, like, guys really only care about sports when it comes to, like, interests. As a majority, sports is just so big. And if you're going to tap into men and what's a better way than doing that than having their favorite player wear the clothes?
Yeah, it's great. I've seen the work that you've done with Jones. It's great. One of the things about your business, as somebody that follows and I wear your clothes, you're not a highly promotional business. And so, how do you think about, when you need to give business a little boost? I would imagine you don't want to go down the path that many retailers have over time, is become reliant on promotionality. So, how do you think about that?
So one, I mean, there's an ideal state where like I still think we're our inventory is still not where it needs to be, and as I said, we got to keep getting better and better at that. I think one thing is the benefit we have is we're not a publicly traded company. We have a long term view on what we want this brand to be. So the near term quarters, while they're important, they're not as important as what the brand looks like in 10 years. That's a benefit that we have that a lot of especially the bigger brands that are public don't have. And so when the comment of like, oh, do a promotion to boost business, like we don't really think of it that way. For us, it's more of like we just, we got to move markdowns and we got to get our inventory clean than it is like a boost to business, because I think we all talk about the brutal, and you've seen it, I'm sure, in your experience, like just the brutal world. If you keep going doing that over and over again, it just can kill your brand. So we had the benefit of having a long-term view on what we do, and I think that luxury brands are a great North Star for any brand as far as how they think about. I mean, obviously the pricing is insane of what those brands charge, but I think that the integrity of the brand and the sacredness of the brand is something you can learn a lot from studying the luxury brand. So we think, to us, we look more to that model from just like having a true full price business than we do maybe some of the American retailers that we grew up with.
On the digital side, one of the things that's, been so interesting to me, I play in the digital space consulting. I talk to lots of providers, vendors, software, companies, and inevitably, so often I hear we work with Faherty. And it's seemingly you have a very open view of trying new things, seeing if they will work, and then, quickly, if not, pivoting onto something else. So talk a little bit about your philosophy of, trying new things and seeing if you can find the next winner.
We have the benefit of obviously having, built the business in the modern tech stack. So the ability to try new things is a lot easier than maybe legacy brands who have tech debt and systems they had to build themselves. So in the world we live in, with APIs being so easy to integrate, and I think the plethora of software for services vendors and every single thing you could possibly imagine in the world of e-commerce, where you don't have to build it yourself, you can rent it for some period of time. So to me, if you can rent something, why not try things and rent them and see what they do for your business, and if they help and if they don't help. And I think the other thing is instinctively, I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, as I know you do, Mark, and it's just a great place to learn about what's new and what's coming. And so I think just doing the homework and research to make sure that I know what's out there, what's new, and especially when we think about like problems that we're trying to solve, that we talk about, like what is the software that's out there? Because I think the great thing over the last 10 years is the amount of investment in 2018, 19, 20, 21 into consumer e-commerce technology has been insane. So we might as well take advantage of that. And like, for example, we've been really trying to figure out how do we scale our landing page program with some of our performance ads. So been following this company Format that's launched, and so that's been an issue. That was a problem that we've had, and so we found a software vendor that sort of answers that question, where we don't need the internal resources. We don't have to build the internal team to do that. So we're testing from Format out right now as an example. But we do it quick. We say let's do it, and we try it, and in a couple months we reassess.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I see businesses, they're willing to test, but then they're not willing to walk away. I don't know if it's they become emotionally attached to the technology, or it's just easier to keep it going than to make a decision that perhaps it didn't work. Have you struggled with that at all?
I mean, maybe some of that might be just the flatness of our company, and most of these technology decisions that we make, I spearhead them with the team. So I don't care, I don't have any. I'm not worried if like I make a bad decision and it doesn't work and we want to walk away. So I think I set that example for the team. So you don't have to worry. I'm sure there's e-commerce and technology leaders who are like, I put the time in, I made everyone do it. Like we got to stick it out and we got to like keep using it because I'm paying. But I tell the team, like, if we sign a 1-year software subscription and in 4 months no one wants to do it, I say let's just pull the plug and we'll write it off and move on to the next thing because it's not worth the time. And if we have to write it off, like, so be it.
Yeah, that's a good philosophy. You have a loyalty program. Can you talk a little bit about the program itself and how assess whether or not it's giving you incremental value?
It's a good question. I would say that I think it's an area of our business that we need to get better at. We have a loyalty program through Yotpo today, and it's a couple years old, so it needs a nice retweak and some more, just needs some cleaning up. Just you kind of need to do that every few years, probably every year now with loyalty programs. So we have a every time you pay, you get some cash that you can use on your next purchase. It's relatively simple. I'd say that a roadmap for what loyalty looks like at Faherty is a lot different than what we have today. Whereas I say we have a very simple, out of the box, it's nothing special. Is I think we have a roadmap where loyalty for us will continue to be a big differentiator. And as I think as we think about the lifestyle of the brand and things that we do as a brand, whether that's, you know, partnerships with Jalen Brunson or trips that we go on or, the places we have stores at, their amazing locations, like how do we make our loyalty program more special and more unique and more bespoke than just your kind of normal points program. And so that for us, as I think about our 3-year roadmap, like I want in 3 years for us to have one of the coolest loyalty programs in all of the world. And that now we just have to kind of build towards that.
This episode is sponsored by Shopware, the e-commerce platform built for the mid-market. For over 20 years, we've been empowering more than 50,000 merchants to grow with flexible, scalable solutions. As mid-market brands, you face the same complexities as enterprises, but without the hefty budgets. Shopware bridges that gap, offering powerful, customizable features at an affordable price so you can focus on growth without compromise. Learn more at shopware.com. Well, we're coming down to the end of the show. Thank you for joining me. We do a 2-minute drill, 7 questions, 1-word answer. You ready?
Let's rock.
Okay. A brand that you admire or that inspires you.
Brunello Cucinelli.
Favorite app on your phone.
My favorite app on my phone is Superhuman Email.
Superhuman email. Okay. Last website other than Amazon that you shopped from.
The Ice Pod Company, my cold plunge.
Okay. Something that you're not good at, but wish that you were.
Playing golf.
Charitable organization that you're passionate about.
The Surf Rider Foundation.
If you had one superpower, what would it be?
To fly.
And other than your family, what's your most prized possession?
Oh, my company, of course.
And actually, as we were reading those things, I figured you could have answered Faherty for at least 4 out of 7 of those questions. Alex, this was great. Where can people reach out to you on social media should they be interested?
The best place is on LinkedIn.
Okay. Alex, so glad that we had a chance to chat. I appreciate you making the time. Continued good success in your business. I'll be the secret shopper in Westfield, New Jersey, and soon to be your store on Atlantic Avenue in Delray and wherever else I can jump in.
Cool. Thanks, Mark. This was awesome.
That's it. Today's game ball goes to Alex Faherty for coming on the Marketing Playbook. To me, today's 3 game-winning marketing plays were as follows. Number 1, Alex noted that as he started the business, almost everything has turned out to be harder than he expected. The business is a combination of art and science, the art of developing great products and fabrics, and the science of inventory management, customer targeting, and finances make a retail business tougher than it might appear to people new to it. If you're planning to start a business, spend as much time as possible speaking to people who have been there before. Number two, the lack of tech debt as a newer brand has allowed Alex and team to try new feature and function and technology for the site. See if it works, and if it does, great. But if it doesn't, they're not afraid to walk away. This approach of being able to admit when something's not working rather than continuing on and wasting time and resources is critical to any business. And number three, most businesses need to find a way to stand out among the crowd. Alex spoke about finding ways to differentiate your business from the others, build a better product, service the customer better in store and online, build an emotional connection with your target audience. How does your business stand out? Thank you, Playbook marketers, for listening to another episode. If you want to check out more pages of the Marketing Playbook, make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast spot and leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Until next time, the devil is in the details.